then of the year, of the new year, on New Year's Day. Arsenal taking on Manchester City. Let's hear from the two managers, Pep Guardiola and first Mikel Arteta.
Well, it's the biggest test in terms of the level of the opposition. That's 100%, and they have shown that really consistently throughout the year, and not only in this year, but in the last 6 years. So that's the level. They have raised a different bar in this league that has been known of, and that's what we have to get, and that's the aim that we have as a team and as a club. It's a really frustrating thing not to be able to be there helping the team, but I will do my best from here with everything that I can do, and we have prepared for every scenario possible, and they know what we have to do, and then it will be down to the players to execute as much as possible what we have to do tomorrow.
All of you, thank you for your nice words, because we win, of course, but I'm not going to believe you any of the words you're going to say about this thing it's already done or how good is expected, of course, because the teams that we have with Chelsea and Liverpool are more than exceptional. One is a champion from Europe, and the Liverpool had been our big rival in the last 3-4 years. And yet the distance, not because they drop points, it's because we won 10 games in a row. It's 54 points still to play in every game. It's just thinking Arsenal, Chelsea, Southampton, the next 3 games that we have. So, and just with that, I say, okay, be calm, Pep, and recover the people. Unfortunately, we have to come back soon here to London and play 12:30 and go with this intention.
So, guys, Manchester City, 10 successive Premier League wins. They could go 11 points clear on New Year's Day. I wonder if we're going to get a man who's a cop idol who played for Liverpool for all those years to say it's a one-horse title race.
You know, it's difficult to look past Man City at this moment in time. They're running away with it, the way they play. And when they get into these sort of momentum, it's hard to stop them. Don't get me wrong, Arsenal are on a fine run at this moment in time as well, so you can't put it past them. But it's a difficult team to play against. And one thing I love about the way that Man City play is, regardless of who actually plays in them, that little jigsaw, it looks exactly the same. And I love watching it, but yeah, it's going to be a difficult one to knock them off that perch.
Can anyone stop them, Rafa?
Every team has a wobble or a mini wobble. The problem is, I think, for the competitors is that City already seem to have had it at the beginning of the season when they started a little bit slowly, just as they did the season before. But because what we saw last year when they pulled away after New Year's, I think there is almost a bit of fear factor as well. That if you're Klopp, if you're Tuchel, you think it's unlikely for them to lose too many more games. So that's in the back of their heads.
There's almost a bit of a symmetry gaps, isn't there? Do you remember last season, the West Brom game, 1-1, and that really didn't sit well with Pep Guardiola. And from the Crystal Palace match, when they lost 2-0 at home at the Etihad, when was it? In October, I think. You know, they've won those 10 games successively then without going behind in a single game.
I think the big thing for me, Manchester City, is that you're sitting there last game, Sterling, Mahrez on the bench, Gundogan. These players will probably come in now and play against Arsenal fresh. You know, they've got that rotation in their team that most of their players are going to be fresh. You know, Aki can play, Diaz, Stones, Laporte. That's a big thing for me, Manchester City.
One thing I will say is in the Leicester game, they did concede 3 goals. So I think teams will be looking at that they can score against them, but can they stop them from scoring?
Yeah. And
they're so free-flowing. They score so many goals, and it's a fantastic understanding that they have. I was speaking to someone about football in the sense of crossing. When they get a ball knocked back, they know exactly when that ball's going in and what area it's going into. You see so many times Raheem Sterling tapping the ball in at the far post. You see Phil Foden winning a header in the box, 5'5".
If they don't get in the box, they will get in trouble from Pep, won't they?
Yeah, 100%.
He's telling them they have to get in the box when the ball comes back to De Bruyne, so they know their position.
100%. But again, it's a case of doing that on the training field over and over and over again. So then you know it's automatic. You don't even think about it. We used to do it all the time. You don't even think about it. You just go and do it. And that's what you see with Man City at times.
He expects at least 98%, Pep. You know him very well, Rafa. And if it's not 98, if it's 97, 96, you just won't be in the team. You know, if you've been a naughty boy like Kyle Walker and you get a red card, a silly red card in the Champions League, you're on the bench.
Yeah, or you get sold, even if you're a top star player. But that's the collective quality of this team. They're so well drilled. I think Pep's figured out this football in this weird kind of COVID circumstances better than anyone else, because this is a team that exert a lot of energy when they don't have the ball, but with the ball, they always look calm. They always look composed. You know that chances are coming. There's patience. Teams like Liverpool, for example, who live more on the rhythm, on the energy, I think they find it harder to play without a crowd last year, and now with the interruptions that come with injuries and people coming out of COVID. City as a collective, they're so strong. They seem to be taking all these things in their stride.
It seems like they found a way to adapt this season as well. I mean, the Brentford game, I was at that match, and it didn't even feel like they wanted to go and get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals. I mean, you've got to think the 3 games before, they'd scored 17 goals in those 3 matches. And, you know, even at 1-0 with sort of 70, 80 minutes, they didn't really look in any danger of conceding. But it was a way of managing a game which you haven't really seen from City.
Yeah, and that's what you know, every game, Manchester City aren't going to win 6-7-0. They weren't at it as much against Brentford, but they wasn't in danger of conceding a goal, like you said. So, maybe that's something that Pep's started to like to see from his team. Foden was picking up the ball late on in the game, running the length of the pitch with the ball to get it down the field.
And they're getting in the corner at the end.
Yeah,
all the
going
Brentford
for
fans
goals.
singing boring City.
But then other teams are conceding late goals like Chelsea, but Man City aren't doing that. So credit to Pep and credit to the players.
Yeah, that game was the perfect time to score, wasn't it? Because actually just before that, Cancelo cleared one off the line. There was an incident where I think it was a cross from Visser and Diaz nearly headed it past Edison. And then seconds later, that's what City can do. It was the ultimate lesson for Brentford, really.
100%. And again, when you're playing against the big teams like City, like Man United, like Liverpool, you always know you're going to get an opportunity. It's whether you take that one opportunity, and because you know they're going to get 3 on 4. I see Leicester riding their luck a little bit, but they rode their luck and won the game. But at times you're not going to get that look.
Yeah, we talked about the squad depth, and that probably is going to see them through to January, February. Obviously, we're going to mention AFCON and Liverpool losing players later. They lose 3. Chelsea just lose Edouard Mendy. City just losing Riyad Mahrez. And, you know, a window to come. They've lost Torres. There's all sorts of chat, isn't there, Rafa, about Dusan Vlahovic, Erling Haaland for next season. I mean, that is a scary prospect going forward. What could be Pep's last season. Just have Haaland for another 12 months.
And it's scary that you can afford to just let Torres go halfway through the season. I mean, what other team would say, you know what, we don't really need him. We have so much power already. In a COVID season where you have to make changes and where you have to keep everyone fresh, it's a sign of real strength. Even though it's weird because, you know, usually you sell a player because you can't keep him. This one is almost like, we've got enough. We don't need Ferran Torres. So it's incredible. I think the psychology is difficult for the other teams because you think City, there's kind of an air of inevitability about them, the way they play at the moment. Very hard to see them. You're smiling. Very hard to see them slip up from here.
But it's scary, isn't it, to know that maybe the money they've got for Torres has been put aside for Haaland. Add a little bit more onto that from the savings account, and then Haaland, I'm sure, would love to come to Manchester City as well.
Well, Gabs, it's crazy, isn't it? Because they let Haaland go. Sorry, not Haaland go. They let Torres go for what essentially could be at 55 million pounds. Leroy Sané, a player they didn't want to let go. You know, they're letting guys go where most clubs would say you're absolutely going to stay at this side, but he just doesn't want to keep unhappy people. Sané wanted to go. Torres gets a phone call from Xavi. He's a Spanish boy, wants to play for Barcelona. And
look at the bench. You know, we talk about Sterling, Mahrez, the young lad Palmer. He's one that he really likes, Pep. So he knows these players can fit in anywhere. False number 9s. On the wing, so he knows he's got enough there to last him to the end of the season.
Emma, you mentioned Arsenal's form, and they've won 5 on the spin, but against Manchester City, it doesn't look good in the Premier League. I know they beat them in the FA Cup semi-final, and they can cling on to things like that, but 9 straight defeats in the league, not all under Arteta.
Look, it's against Man City, but that's what we got to be honest. You know, with it's against a fantastic team who are well drilled. And he'll understand because of having been in that camp, he'll understand what this team's like. They're a fantastic outlet, but again, he'll be looking at and saying, well, how can I break them down? How can I really challenge them? And he'll be trying to figure that out right now. They've got some great young players. Smith Rowe, who hasn't really played that much, to be honest. Fantastic player. Saka is just great.
He's ridiculous, isn't he, Saka? I mean, we're talking about, you know, at the beginning of the show, the year in general. It wasn't long ago that he was playing left wing back, and then suddenly he is just an integral part of that front 3 on the right. And
the thing is, playing left wing back and being the best player, then playing in central midfield as a 3 and being the best player. Wherever he's played, he's given more than enough, this is why you have to play him. And now they're seeing the best of him, and he's still only young as well. To be the best player at Arsenal and stepping up to the plate, and your senior players are really looking at you to be that talisman. that's strange for me. But he's taking it on his shoulders. I hope they don't just burn him out because he's a fantastic player.
And he's only 20, which is crazy, isn't it? 20 years old. Obviously, Martinelli scoring goals as well. I think actually out of the top 7 under 21 players in the Premier League, they've got 3 of them in there. They've got Martinelli, they've got Smith Rowe and Bukayo Saka. And on Bukayo Saka himself, 19 appearances this season. He's chipping in with the goals. But it's not just the goals and the assists, it's the energy that he brings, Gabby, isn't it?
Yeah, I just love Saka. And that second goal we just saw there against Norwich, I mean, what a goal that is. So underrated. To cut back inside, bend it in the bottom corner. That's what he's about. For me, he's a guaranteed starter for England as well on that right side. In the Euros, keeping the likes of Foden on the bench. So credit to him. And Emil knows when you're a young player, you know, you're playing off that confidence, you know, and he'll continue to do that for the rest of the season for sure.
Mikel Arteta, of course, won't be in the dugout, will he, Rafa, because he's got COVID, so we wish him well. It's the second time he's had it as well. But his assistant, Albert Stevenberg, in the dugout. We know he'll be in contact when he's in a hotel, wherever he is at home, and he will, of course, pick the team. But do you think that will have an impact on the day?
I don't think it's a positive for Arsenal, especially if you're so active and so involved and coaching your team. And this is a team that is still being coached, that is still growing, that is still developing. They're not the finished article, Arsenal. I think they benefit from somebody telling them, you know, just be a little bit, you know, come over a bit, be a bit more on the side. And he's going to be missed for sure. Arsenal are going into this game as underdogs anyway. This doesn't help them. Does it really make a big difference? I'm not sure. But I think it'd be a real test to see how this renaissance, this positive momentum from Arsenal can be kept up against what is clearly the best side in the division.
And we have to remember that Arsenal were bottom of the table after 3 match weeks. All the Spurs fans were taking pictures of the Premier League table. I think even Gabby was having a good laugh at their expense as well, because Spurs were top and Arsenal were bottom. And then now they will guarantee, no matter what happens, well, of course the game's on New Year's Day, but they'll finish the year in the Champions League spots, which is some turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fantastic turnaround again. And the thing is sticking to the philosophy and sticking to your guns on what you want from your players and what you want from your team. A lot of people were calling for him to change certain things. A lot of people were saying that he's not good enough. He's not experienced enough to be in that position. But he's showing that tactically he's very good. He's aware of what he wants his team, and it's about getting the best out of the players that he's got there. He's had a couple of problems, obviously, with certain players, and dealt with it. I think in the best manner he possibly could.
Consistently as well with the Aubameyang.
He's had to. At the end of the day, we've been in changing rooms, and if you don't set a precedence, people are just going to keep walking over at you, and they're going to be pointing. Because if you're doing it for him, you've got to do it for me as well. So as long as he's sticking to his guns on them sort of things, he's done the right thing.
Yeah.
But he's getting the results there, and people like players like Aubameyang have to step up to the plate.
Yeah. So the 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday is Watford.